Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com, the climate guy setting the record straight about climate. This video is titled, The Emperor's New Climate. In the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, experts convinced the Emperor that they'd made fine new clothes for him. Their claim was a complete scam, but the Emperor was afraid to question the experts, so he paraded through the streets completely naked. The king's aides were afraid to question the authority of the king and were very afraid to question the authority of the experts, so they didn't say anything. And even though it was obvious that the emperor was walking around completely naked, nobody in the kingdom was willing to say anything. They were all afraid to question authority. Finally, a small child spoke up and said, "The king isn't wearing any clothing." It was obvious to the child that the experts were lying. But the adults had all been conditioned to stay silent and not question authority. Fast forward to the present, and now we have exactly the same thing going on with climate. This is a brand new article from Popular Science. It says, most people don't see how climate change is affecting their lives, and that's a problem. Heidi Cohen is the blame changer. According to a recent Yale survey, 7 in 10 Americans believe global warming is real and happening, and 6 in 10 believe it's affecting U.S. weather. But only 1 in 3 say they've personally felt its effects. So hardly anyone has actually seen any global warming, but most believe it's real. And the reason they believe it's real is because they've been told by experts that it's real. So it's the same story as the emperor's new clothes. People don't actually see climate change, but they're afraid to question authority, so they just blindly accept it. And who are the experts who are lying to them? Well, one of the worst is Heidi Cohen. I've been calling out her fraud for years. A good example of how Heidi Cohen defrauds the public was an article from her website a few days ago. In that article, she claimed that summer heat was getting worse in the United States. She made this bright red map of the United States, making it look like the U.S. was burning up. She said, "Summers are getting hotter. Temperature trends since 1970. If you've been following me, you know that U.S. summers are not getting hotter, and in fact, they've gotten much cooler over the last 80 to 90 years. So let's look at what Heidi Cohen did to fool the public. The first thing she did was to use a highly altered U.S. temperature data set from NOAA, which has massively cooled the past. But I'm not going to focus on that here. Remember she started her graph in 1970? Well, let's look at that. That's right at a local minimum. It was much hotter in the 1930s. Had she started her map trend in the 1930s instead of 1970, the trend would have been downwards, and the map would have been blue. The 1930s were extremely hot. It was the Dust Bowl. Temperatures in North Dakota reached 121 degrees in 1936. Temperatures in Wisconsin approached 115 degrees. Temperatures of 110 to 120 degrees were widespread across the U.S. during 1936. That sort of heat is incomprehensible now outside of the desert Southwest. So Heidi Cohen cherry-picked a low point in the graph to start her trend. She's intentionally deceiving the public. There's no other way to state it. Very few, if any, people actually see summers getting hotter, but because they're told by self-proclaimed experts like Heidi Cohen that they are getting hotter, most people are afraid to speak up. Fake and exaggerated climate statistics are nothing new. This 1871 article from the Brisbane Courier was titled Imaginary Changes of Climate. A plentiful crop of speculation from weather prophets and projectors and half-instructed meteorologists and all the philosophic tribe of Laputa in general, to whom the periodical press now affords such fatal facilities. Every season is sure to be extraordinary. Almost every month one of the driest or wettest or windiest, coldest or hottest ever known. Much observation, which ought to correct a tendency to exaggerate, seems in some minds to have rather a tendency to increase it. The story in 1871 was exactly the same as what we have now. We had a press which was obsessed with climate change and fake statistics coming from experts. These fake statistics aren't necessarily innocent mistakes. Here's an article from the Monthly Weather Review from January 1907 titled, "Is Not Honesty the Wisest Policy?" It is wrong to mutilate or suppress the record of an observation of a phenomenon of nature, but it is also wrong to make a bad use of the record. In fact, it is the misuse of meteorological data, not the observing or publishing, that constitutes a crime against the community. Observation and careful research are to be encouraged as useful, but misrepresentations are to be avoided as harmful. The independent press as the voice of the people should be not only vox populi, but vox Dei, repressing all cheats and hoaxes, defending the truth and the best interests of the whole nation as against the self-interest of a few. Fast forward 110 years to 2017. The independent press is now bloggers like me. What we're doing is repressing cheats and hoaxes like Heidi Cullen and Climate Central. These people are lying to the public in order to promote their own self-interest. And just like in The Emperor's New Clothes, they know that most people in the public are afraid to speak up. If there's enough experts lying to the public, many people will simply go along with the global warming scam, even though they don't actually see anything occurring around them. It's the story of The Emperor's New Clothes all over again. Visit Toto on the web at realclimatescience.com. He's been pulling back the curtain on junk science for a long time.